Also, the fight against IS came at the expense of development in Kurdistan, and the dramatic cut in the oil prices has cost us a lot. Remember, we also have around 2 million IDPs and refugees. That's what caused the current situation, and not the referendum. So why should we call it a failure?
While politicians here negotiate with Baghdad, many people in Iraqi Kurdistan are now struggling to make ends meet. Welders in this workshop come from Kirkuk's different ethnicities: Kurds, Arabs and Turkmen. They've all worked together here for decades, regardless of who's in power. Like many in Iraq's Kurdish region, they've learned to live with conflict and uncertainty. Shaima Khalil, BBC News, Kirkuk.
Now, a third of coral reefs are entangled by plastic, one of the biggest threats to its future after ocean warming. New research in the journal Science reveals 11 billion items of plastic were found on a third of coral reefs that were looked at in the Asia-Pacific region. That number is predicted to rise to more than 15 billion by the year 2025. With me is Helen Briggs, our correspondent who's been following this story. Helen, just tell us a bit more about what they found through this study.
Well, they were diving, they were surveying reefs, they were looking at the health of the beautiful reefs in our oceans, and they came across this plastic. And I spoke to one of the scientists, Dr. Jolie Lamb, who did the work, and she said that you could see babies' nappies, rice sacks, food packaging floating around the reefs. So they started looking at what it was doing there, obviously, and linked with disease. So it seems that there's a much bigger risk of diseases that attack coral where plastic is present. In fact, it's a 20-fold risk. And it seems that plastic is somehow allowing these diseases to get a foothold and attack coral.
And why is coral important? I mean, apart from if, you're going diving to go and see it, it'd be disappointing if it was littered with plastic bottles like that. But what role does it play in the ecosystem of the oceans? Of
course, it's one of the wonders of the natural world, and it only takes up a tiny fraction of the oceans, but it is an incredible amount of diversity there. These tiny little marine creatures in coral support a wealth of life in the ocean. They support fisheries, food for people, tourism. So they're a huge resource in the oceans and already facing many threats as well as plastic.
And given what they found with this rubbish, this plastic that's damaging the coral reefs, do they come up with any solutions apart from we just need to stop throwing plastic in the oceans?
Well, first of all, they do find they looked at 4 countries, and there's a lot more plastic getting into the oceans around some reefs than others. So some of it is just helping countries deal with their plastic problem. And also personal messages. The scientist, Dr. Jolie Lamb, said we all have to think about our own use of plastics, particularly single-use plastics, things that we use once and throw away, which is fitting in with really many of the messages that we're hearing.
I was going to say, it's quite a sort of a zeitgeisty conclusion, given, 2018 seems to be the year that everyone's being urged to cut back on their addiction to the convenience of plastic.
It certainly is, and where corals are concerned, we know they're already under pressure from bleaching, so warming oceans are causing coral bleaching, far shorter intervals between coral bleaching. So plastic being there is another problem for them. And then this link with disease is very interesting, that you can actually, for the first time, find this link between having plastic there and a disease in a marine organism. So it's definitely something the scientists are going to be keeping a close watch